Okay, here we are. So I made some changes today to our. Oh, there we go. Because I was messing around with Facebook Creative Studio. Facebook has this new Creative Studio thing, which is quite amazing for creators like musicians and artists and writers and people who are creative. And today I was messing around with the settings on my Facebook. So I thought I did something wrong, but then it shows up. It's fine. Everything is good. We're ready to go with today's show. So if you tuned in and you saw me fidgeting around and then go off and come back on, excuse me, right? We're back with today's show. And today's show, we wanna. When I looked at when I thought about the show that we did yesterday, which talked about. Well, watch the show if it's on, it's on YouTube and Facebook. So take a look at it and see what you think of what we said yesterday. But today is a kind of outgrowth of what we said yesterday when we talked about human capital and your team, which is an absolutely. You remember we talked a lot about the individual, but the team is important, and we listed, examples of Alibaba when Jack Ma got 16 of his friends and family. I don't know if family was involved, maybe some, who became partners with Alibaba with him when he launched that business, which is now a multi-billion-dollar global business, always based in China mostly. But even people from Canada and the US and everywhere in the world buy from Alibaba, right? When he started, he got a team of 16 people together, and they lived in the same apartment. And they've helped funded this thing, and now it's a global multi-billion-dollar business. The same with Apple, Microsoft, Google. And I talked about how these companies, Uber, Airbnb, all of these companies built themselves because they were able to, the founder, the originator of the idea, was able to enroll a core team of people, the closest people to him or to her, right? Whoever founded the company. And that core team is crucial. So yesterday we talked about that, and then we expanded to your tribe, which is Kevin Kelly's idea of the 100 to 1,000 people who really buy into your vision. And the word buy-in is wrong, who really resonate with your heart and your passion, and they're there and they're your die-hard fans, right? And then of course we went beyond that to your bigger team, which would be your community, right? On the global platform that is the internet. So today we want to go a step beyond that, and we want to talk about another very important thing, which underlines the qualified life, what the qualified life is all about, which of course is your designing the future and authoring our future, right? What is the first step that we take? And we're going through, I guess, for the rest of October, daily this qualified life show. My name is Sean, by the way, host, if you're stumbling upon the show for the first time. For those of you who watch often, thank you. I learned recently that my aunt in Guyana, she's 71, 72 years old, Auntie Lynette. Shout out to Auntie Lynette. And my granny is turning 99 years old next year in January. And my aunt told me that she watches the show. And I'm amazed, and I'm very, very humbled by that she watches the show and she listens to me. Of course, in the evening, she lives in Guyana, so it's night when the show is on here. But I guess now too, because winter hours, right? But I'm grateful for her for watching the show. And my sister in St. Kitts, Marina, my sister in New York, Penny, they all watch the show. My brother in Grenada, Rocky and stuff. I'm so grateful for people who are starting. Mano, who will check, make sure all our audio is well. And Churros, today I saw him and he said he watches the show as well. So we're picking up an audience, even if they're people who are close to me, right? So friends and family and fans and people who are connected to our company. And of course we share it on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. So people are watching that I don't even know. In fact, we saw today that we had, 17 hours of watched videos so far for the month, and about close to 200 viewers, which is incredible. It's nothing like what we were aiming to do, but we'll get there eventually. So anyway, the show is the qualified life, and we talk about the design life and authoring our future. And today we want to go back to a fundamental point. The rest of this month, this is what we're doing. We're talking about why the qualified life. We're talking about the roadmaps and the signposts and the structure that we have to align to to walk that road of the design life, of authoring our future. And we'll get into, maybe in December, we'll get more into what authoring our future entails, because it's a big concept. And that's what I want to zero in today on, the fundamental, how should I say, foundation or the root of why we're doing the qualified life, right? So the essence of why we do this is, it came out of many books and many studies that I delved into, right? And one of it is Peter Drucker's. Peter Drucker taught me a lot of stuff through his books. One of it is We Live for Aspiration, which lines up with the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's thing of we live for, actualization or achieving our best, the top of the triangle, right? Of our needs and wants, and then actualization. We actualize our dreams and stuff. And Peter Drucker interpreted that desire in us as our aspirational self, that we aspire to sort of things. And what he did, Peter Drucker did, as he was, the management expert of the world, wrote many books, became a Nobel Prize winner, and he passed away sadly. But he really did a lot of studies on human behavior. And what he did a study of churches in America, and found out, to his astonishment, that hundreds of millions of people, 200 million people or something like that, or over 100 million, would volunteer in churches and religious organizations and charities across America. And these people weren't getting paid. They weren't being cajoled or convinced or beaten over the head, or they were out of their free choice. People were choosing to volunteer in churches, religious organizations, charities, and non-profits across America. And it astonished him. These people were driven not by the profit motive, not by selfish gain, but by giving. And he studied this whole thing, and he looked at all the stats and everything, and he came up with the idea that the fundamental reason a lot of people were giving back to society, as over 100, maybe 200 million people in America were doing this, from teenagers to seniors, everybody, was because they had this aspiration. We as human beings, we have in us a desire to an aspirational self that causes us to want to give back. We want to give back to society. We want to help our fellow man. We want to reach out to people in kindness and generosity. There is that side to us. Even the worst human being, the most evil person, there is a side to them that could tap into that kindness and gentleness and goodness, right? To love, hope, joy, right? Being faithful to things, like the good things, the righteous things, the holy things, the noble things. There's a side to the human being, to humanity, that no matter how horrible a person is, or how passive that person is, they have this desire to give back. And that is called the aspirational self. So that's one thing I learned from Peter Drucker, that we live for our aspirations, and that's what this company sets out to do. Our talk show, the tools and the technologies, the training, the tips and everything that we develop, our courses and all that, it's all to aim not to satisfy your needs and your wants, not to satisfy your pleasures, but it's to satisfy your aspirations. What do you aspire to in life? You aspire to have a book published. You aspire to contribute to community. You aspire to make a difference and to leave a legacy on the earth. And we tap into that. That's if there's such a thing as market niche, which I don't subscribe to. That's where our market niche is. That's where our people are. The people who want to do great things with their life. The people who want to dream big. The people who are hungry and thirsty. We don't want to deal with. It's not that we have anything against ordinary people. We are ordinary too. I'm a common man, right? We're all ordinary, but and simple folks. But we tap into that part of the human being that aspires to something more than the mundane, mediocre walk of day-to-day living, right? This monotony of what the poet Gerald Manley Hopkins called the plod of life, or the trod of life. Like the rat race, you get up and, well, I don't want to get into that again, the industrial age kind of lifestyle. So that's one thing I learned from Peter Drucker. The second thing I learned from Peter Drucker, which is what we're going to talk about today, is that what is important in life is the question that you ask. What questions are you coming up with? So Peter Drucker himself came up with 5 questions that organizations everywhere started asking their employees themselves, their boards, their founders, what is your vision and that kind, what is your purpose and all those things. So 5 fundamental questions Peter Drucker came up with. But I'm not going to deal with those 5 questions. You can research them if you want. What I'm talking about here is the fact that Peter Drucker said and entrenched in human consciousness at the level of corporations and governments, the high levels, even the United Nations, the fact that questions are important. Answers are important, but the more important thing are the questions you ask. And that's what I want to get into today, because apart from the fact that we live for fueling the aspirations of people and delivering their aspirations, their dreams, their bigness, their greatness, their legacy, that's where we want to make a mark and make a difference in awakening the consciousness of people who come alongside us, that there is this side to us which aspires to rise like eagles to the heavens. We aspire to, and there is even which we won't get into, but there is even a thought form that says man aspires to be gods, right? But we have that divine side of us that aspires to rise, not to stay mundane or stagnant or to fall, but to rise and to live a noble life, to live a life that is divine and even righteous. I could use the word righteous, but noble. There's a side to that human nature that aspires to higher things, to the actualization of the self, the maximization of our individual potential, the rising up the mountain to the summit of our lives, right? There is that side to us, and that's the side we want to tap into. And how do we tap into that? By asking certain questions, right? So we have on our screen there, you're reading the 4 reasons we're doing the show, The Qualified Life. I really should change that to the 4 questions, because they're questions like authoring our future, designing our life, intelligence for the digital age, and the lifestyle of aspirations. Those reasons for us doing this Qualified Life show came out of questions we ask, right? And this is following Peter Drucker's teachings. He originated this thing, that the important thing in life are the questions you ask of yourself and of the world and of the universe, of God, of whatever divine force you believe in that is true. Don't believe in any false divine force. But so I want to zero in today on this thing called what questions are we asking, right? That's our topic today. And the rest of this month, this is the kind of thing we'll deal with. We'll deal with why the qualified life. Why do we think the world needs this thing, or certain individuals in the world needs this thing, right? In need this thing. I'm getting my grammar all mixed up. But we feel it's embedded in human nature. So everybody is like this, every human being. But not everybody is set up for it. Not everybody is prepared for it. The Scouts motto, I mentioned this previously, be prepared, be prepared. Not a lot of people are prepared in life for the big life. Not everybody is prepared for the creative life, for the designed life, for authoring their future. A lot of people are scared, they're fearful, or they see obstacles instead of opportunities. They see the mountain not as something to climb up and get up to the top of the summit, but as an obstacle that stands in their way, right? And perspective is important, right? So a lot of people have the perspective, and we try to change that with our training program, and even this life program. We try to impact people's consciousness there, to awaken something in them. And I think it's happening to the people who actually listen to us on a regular basis or watch the video after we put it up. I think we're starting to make that inroad into their consciousness and into their awakeness, right? Bringing them to a new level of awareness of themselves, of life, of consciousness. We tap into the subconscious, the unconsciousness that is part of us as well, and even the consciousness that is limited, because sometimes we're conscious of things but we're not really awake to it. We're half there, we're not fully there, fully present. And then the super consciousness, that's where we really go. We tap into that super consciousness that says, live a life of aspirations. And today I want to really talk to you and leave with you a for tonight, because tomorrow we have another show, right? This idea that we got to come up with a right, well, I don't know if the word is right. We got to come up with a kind of questions that put us on a path to the design life, to the life of altering our future, to the life of aspirations, to the life of going up that. What questions are we asking? And so yesterday we talked about the importance of putting our team together. First, our core team, and we talked about that. Watch the video if you haven't. And also our tribe, which is our bigger team that really elevates us to success, right? Global community. And then our tribe would lift us to a bigger, wider community, like the big companies who are really touching the lives of every human being around the world, or millions and millions and hundreds of millions, or billions of people like Facebook and Google and all those companies. So there's a bigger, huge community which is global. There is your tribe, which is like 100 to 1,000 people, according to Kevin Kelly, the author of his book about tribes. And then when I say tribe, I mean the people who are sold out for you, who are there for you. I don't mean tribe in terms of tribalism. I mean the tribe, the people who really resonate with your message. I wonder, maybe this week we'll talk about message, right? Maybe tomorrow I'll see how that goes. But today we want to talk about this one thing: questions. And the reason I mentioned yesterday's talk, because it's a talk show, right? Yesterday's conversation is what it is, because we're having a conversation. I want to initiate a conversation in the world around these ideas, and books will come out on it, and these ideas, books will come out on them, and videos and training courses and all that. Our company is working to make things happen, right? Yesterday we talked about the importance of the values, what you look for to put your core team together, to attract your tribe and intrigue your tribe so they come on board with you, and then to build a bigger global community if you're so called to do, right? Today I want to take those same principles that we talked about yesterday and apply them to the kind of what kind of questions are we asking of ourselves in this life, on this earth, as we age every day. You know, people don't realize this, but I'm going to say something that is actually pretty sad, but a fact of life. Every second, the clock is ticking. Well, now we don't have clocks, right? But the time is going by the second. Tick, tick, tick by the second. Clocks used to tick before, and for the young people. And every second that ticks by, every second, every step that we take, we're moving closer to our grave. We're actually, we would never be as young as we were this morning or yesterday, right? We're aging every single day. We're moving closer and closer to the end of our life on earth, our physical life, that is. And so because we're getting older, we are advancing towards that place where we would not exist anymore, where the grave is there, like 100, even if they improve technology and cause people to live longer, most of humanity on the earth today wouldn't exist 100 years from now, 120 years from now, 125 years from now. Everybody on the earth would have passed away. That's a fact of life, but it's something we need to consider. And one of my way of being, the philosophy that I follow, is being a stoic person. So, and what that says is face reality, right? You gotta face things and accept it for what it are. Don't sugarcoat stuff. Although you don't be negative either, right? You be positive and optimistic. It doesn't mean because we're aging every day we should be in sadness. We just make use of the time that we have, because we have limited time on the earth. And the way to do that, the way to deal with it is very, very simple. It really is very simple. If we take Peter Drucker's adage about how to live life, about human behavior. First we need to, so yesterday we talked about the values, how crucial it is to choose a team, and then how crucial it is to attract that kind of people, the kind of people that you attract in your tribe and then your global community, right? But the core team is really, really important. And the same thing we have to do with our, with the kind of questions that we ask about life, right? A lot of people don't, so here's the thing. This is why we do what we're doing. This is why the qualified life to me is so important. Because people don't ask questions about life. People don't ask questions. We stopped asking questions as kids. And our parents, a lot of people, the parents put an end to our curiosity, our wonder about life. Because they would say, you're a kid, don't talk. You know, stay quiet. Or you're asking too many questions, or something like that. Or our teachers, or people in school, our friends, you know, You're a kid, be quiet, right? That became a cliche all over the world. And so kids start learning to shut up and to not to say anything, because parents and grandparents and all those people would shoo them, right? And say, be quiet, you're a kid, what do you know, what can you say? And so we learn to stop asking questions about ourselves, about the world, about the universe, about how things work or how things don't work. And then we go to school and we go through an education system that also does not encourage questioning. They say, this is our curriculum, we drafted this curriculum before you were born. In fact, the school curriculum now throughout the world, the public school system, and even private schools, they adopt the same core curriculum. The core curriculum of the education system, which how should I say, conforms every human being to a certain way of being, a certain type of human being, came out of the United Nations. The United Nations developed the core curriculum system, and this guy, what's his name? Joey, I forgot his name. He was a assistant general secretary of the United Nations, and he drafted the core world curriculum, and all schools, so all human beings are socialized the same way, basically. Generally, right? It's, of course, everybody is an individual and they bring their own style to things, but generally the education system all over the world, just like you have the transportation system all over the world with roads and boats and cars and planes, it's all, the same throughout the world, north and south to east to west, all across the earth. The transportation is the system. I don't know if you ever realize this, but any country you go to, they have the same type of highways, the same type of roads, the same type of bridges, the same type of boats and planes and cars and everything. And the same thing with the education system. Our socialization is along the same lines every single place in the world, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying whether it's bad or good. I'm just making a point, right? That certain things have become global. And one of the sad things that didn't happen was that built into the curriculum system was not this structure of asking questions, developing critical thinkers. We said to kids in school and universities and colleges, here is the curriculum, you read the textbook we give you, you learn what we're telling you, and the previous class that came, they did the same thing, they used the same curriculum and blah blah blah, and you go out in the world and you are socialized to function a certain way and fit in to corporations and to factories and to the workplace, and you became a worker. And even if you became a boss who rose through the ranks, you still had to follow and conform to what they call standards, what they call the normal way of doing things. And when COVID happened, a lot of people were saying, would we ever go back to the normal? Well, what is the normal? And was the normal even working? Right? What we saw in COP26, the conference in Glasgow, England, is people were saying the normal doesn't work because the normal is polluting the planet. And now we saw in British Columbia in Canada, huge massive flooding. Thousands of people displaced from their homes. This is in Canada. And today they're evacuated, and the whole province, which is a big part of Canada, of British Columbia, is in chaos right now. It's a huge state of emergency because of climate, right? Now some people might say it's not climate, but let's go with climate for now. My point is, we saw world leaders from 200 countries show up in England, Glasgow, and they said the normal doesn't work because temperature on the earth is gonna rise beyond 2.8%, and that's way too much. It's gonna heat up everything, right? So whether that is so or not, the fact is, you can't have an industrial society that is absolutely global, producing bitumen for roads and tar and concrete and steel and working all kinds of things, and using up so much energy and pouring carbon dioxide in the air, and don't expect the air not to be clean, right? If your house, you're constantly pouring dirt in your house, you can't live in it after a while. Use your house as a microcosm of the world, of the earth, and you see that the climate needs to be cleaned up. I'm not an advocate of clean climate, but it makes sense that we need to have a clean climate, just like you need to have a clean house, right? I say all that to say that we have socialized humanity to not be curious, not to ask questions, and not to be critical thinkers. Now, a lot of people after COVID say they're critical thinkers because they go on the street and they protest the vaccine and they protest shutdown of society and they protest this and they protest that. That's not critical thinking. That's horde mentality. You don't do things like that in terms of how we change society and how we change human beings. That's what we're setting out to do, to transform how people are being. And if the main thing that we're saying, and I want this to get through because these videos are going to always be there, but I wanted to be sure. Let me check. I got a message here, so I'm sure it's Mano saying the videos are okay. Yep, that's good. Thank you, Mano. Appreciate it. So, questions. That's what I want to get to. The foundation of what we. So when you start our training program, if ever you do, and I hope you do, the first thing that we go through with you with is a bunch of questions. 3 main questions. What kind of future do you see yourself designing, authoring? What's your blueprint for your future? How do you imagine it to be? And if you don't, we work through you, but we work on that question. The second question we work on is, what is possible for your life? What do you think is possible? And we go through what is so, the what is so situation which comes up with my life coaching program. What is happening in your life? What has happened in your past? What is so, for somebody who's disabled, for example, or somebody who is, who didn't go to school, or somebody who just graduated with a doctorate. Whatever your situation is, your what is so situation in life, we consider those and we ask the questions, what is possible with you as a human being? What is possible with you as a human being? It's one of the most important questions we ask. What kind of future do you imagine yourself living? What is possible for you as a human being? And the third thing, of course, is what is your dream? What do you aspire to? What are you hungry for? What beats, what causes your heart to beat? What passion flows through you? We ask these 3 questions, and out of those, it's like a tree, right? You have 3 branches and then it flows into different, it's called mind mapping. So, which I'm sure you've heard of or know of. And so you do the mind mapping based on those 3 questions, and other branches show up, right? Other sub-questions, if you will. And out of that comes your blueprint of how to alter your future. And that's the start of our program. Our program starts with these 3 questions. We really put you through an authentic, real experience of mea culpa, of introspecting and looking into your life, self-examination, right? The unexamined life is not worth living, so the philosopher said. So we put you through, and we help you and we coach you and we mentor you to examine your life and to see where you want to be. And one of the questions I keep asking my friends is, where do you see yourself in the future in terms of how far do you think you could go? Right? For example, it's not hard to ask somebody, do you believe? And we dealt with the belief part of our operation, that in the human being there, you have to believe. If you don't believe, you're starting off, way back. You got to get the starting line for advancing forward, altering your future and designing your life is believing that you can and believing what you want to achieve. And so we go through with people these questions because we want them to, first of all, they have to believe the life that they want to live, but also we want to trigger in their brain, in their being, in their humanity, this idea that the answers are not out there. The answers are within here. In here are where the answers are. We tend to go outside and say to people, what do you think? Can you advise me? Family, friends, trusted people, the government, our professors, different people, we go to them and we say, can you show me what to do? Can you tell me what to do? Can you advise me? So in the industrial age, we lived in a time when it was easy. Once you got a job, it was hard to get the job because you had to go through the resume or know somebody or something. But once you did have a job, the easiest thing in life to live in the industrial age, which went for about 100 years, but really picked up after World War II to just before COVID. People worked in factories and they had the employee mindset, the rat race, the worker mindset. And those people, they didn't have to exercise self-responsibility or self-leadership or any kind of, all they had to do was one single thing: be disciplined, get to work on time, clock in on time, clock out on time. And then they go home and they're too exhausted to do anything, so they sit and entertain themselves. They watch. That's why comedy became such a big thing. People just wanted to laugh, not think, and to entertain themselves, right? So people didn't move. Northrop Frye has a book, a lecture that he did at Massey's Lectures, but it's now a book published called The Educated Imagination. People didn't live for an educated imagination. They lived for an entertainment existence. Very existential. The philosophy for it is existentialism, right? And so they came home and they're exhausted and they watch TV and they sit and they do the light stuff, of course, because that's working 9 to 5, commuting for maybe an hour, 2 hours every day, having to deal with, and a lot of kids in the Western developed countries, people in the developing poor countries don't realize the ultimate sacrifice that people in developed countries like America, Europe, Germany and all those places, and Canada faced an enormous sacrifice to bring development and civilization to humanity. So every country is now trying to copy America, even China and India, in terms of their development, how they're developing the buildings, the roads, the highways, the standard of living and everything, and to copy Canada and to copy Europe. But these countries that are developed, which a lot of us came to as immigrants, paid a significant sacrifice. That sacrifice is that the children, the next generation, and it's been generations for now, up to now, whose parents were caught up in factories and in the industrial age, where they had to work for a paycheck, come home and pay bills. They had to pay the mortgage, they had to pay for car, they had to pay insurance, they had to pay utilities, they had to pay for groceries, they had to pay for every single thing and live paycheck to paycheck. And then the little money that is left, they invested in stocks and mutual funds and savings accounts and RRSP in Canada and those things. And the children suffered because parents didn't have time for children. You came home at night, you were tired, you plump yourself on the sofa, comfort zone, watch TV or something, go to sleep, wake up the next morning and do it again. A lot of people are still doing it because we're now phasing that out. It hasn't been, society has not been totally transformed yet, but it will be very soon. And weekends, of course, we sought entertainment. We went to the movies, we went to parks and recreational places and sporting events, and we just wanted to entertain ourselves because working was so hard. And the point I'm making is that people in that kind of lifestyle, they don't need to exercise self-responsibility and self-leadership. They need a little bit of discipline and that's it. Now, however, because this is the age of the individual, we need to exercise enormous self-discipline, self-responsibility, self-leadership, self-care. Like we did a whole program on this, about self-care and self-development and self-mastery. So the individual has to exercise self-mastery. We are in charge of ourselves. We don't live in this world anymore where you show up at work and you don't have to even think. Your mind could go passive because the boss is telling you everything to do. Move that there, do this, do that. The boss is directing you. There was no responsibility. Life was you're an automated productive unit and they tell you what to do, much like a robot or a wage slave, right? And so today it's different. Today the human being has to go into yourself, into ourself, myself included, and say, for me to have my own enterprise, for me to go out there and build my own, I don't like to use the word empire, but empire, or my own solution for some problem that I see in society, for me to go out and having to earn my income to pay for things that I need to pay for, and to build for my family and my generations to come, that because I'm taking initiative, I'm a visionary now. People who function on this level, founders and startup guys and all those things, owners of company, they have to exercise a different range of skill set. Self-expression is one. You got to learn mastery of public speaking, of body language, of image, dressing, and all those things. So today's world, as much as it opened up and frees up the individual for empowerment, it calls for a lot more self-responsibility, self-leadership, self-development, self-mastery from the individual, right? The old world didn't demand all those things. Today's world demands those things. And the first and foremost thing that comes out of this is this. What question or questions are you asking, first of all, of yourself, second, of the universe, well, of other people around you, including family, your friends? What questions are you putting to them about life, about you, about them? And what questions are you sending out into the universe, right? Whether you believe that goes out by vibration or prayer or however you think it happens, I mean, research and make sure that you believe the truth, right? Not some false airy-fairy stuff. What questions are you asking? And that's what I want to really leave with you today, that just like yesterday we said, be very, very careful who your core team is, because out of your core team, your tribe would come and then your big global community. If that happens, if you go global, if not, you stick with your tribe. Even your tribe is important. They give you the lifestyle that compensates you for the work that you're doing and putting your vision out into the world, right? As much as that is important for your team, now today what we're saying is it's even more important what question you're asking yourself. When you wake up in the morning, in your quiet moments, when you're driving, when you're in your mode, right, of facing life, facing yourself, and you say, you know what is this thing all about? What is my life all about? What am I doing? Who am I being? And then the people around you, the people closest to you, including your core group, but even people you're born into, related to by blood, so you have no choice. And the friends that you pick up in school and workplace and society. Go to everybody, go to yourself first, go to everybody else and ask some key questions, authentic, real questions. And then go out, meditate, pray. Even if you believe in evolution, believe that there's a bigger world out there. And there is. Look at the metaverse. The metaverse shows, and this is a side note, that the physical world that we know as reality, that we call reality, in less than 10 years, we will realize it's not reality at all. The metaverse that Facebook and 1,000 companies are building will be more real than what we call reality. The point I'm making, the reason I'm saying that, is that the spiritual world is real. Whether you're an atheist or you're an evolutionist or you're a creationist, ask the universe, ask the divine order that is out there beyond the stars some questions. There's a country song where they ask some really foolish questions, the singer. It's a nice song, but some of the questions are really foolish. Like, God, why did you allow the car crash? Well, does God allow car crash? If somebody's drunk and foolish and go drive a car, that's that person alone. But anyway, I sidetrack again. What I'm saying is, we have 3 levels of our existence, our life, that we need to totally introspect. And first, it's us, it's our inner being, and then it's the people around us, and then it's the wider world, right? When you close your eyes, that beingness of life. What questions are we asking? And this is the thing, just like we said yesterday with the team that you chose, the core team. Not only is it important that the kind of question that you ask, what questions you come up with, but what is more important, we are saying in the Qualified Life, is that the questions that you ask must generate a life that is big. Don't play small. Don't live small. Jim Rohn has a video, this motivational guy, check him out on YouTube. Excuse me, if you haven't come across him, Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. And he talks about, don't live a small life. The same effort it takes you to live a small life, just like the same effort it takes you to be broke, is the same effort it will take you to live a big life, or the same effort it will take you to aim high. And it's so much joy, it's so much excitement, it's so much motivation and inspiration to wake up in the morning and say, I'm intentionally going to live a big life. The questions that we ask ourselves and the people around us and the people of and the universe, this spiritual world, if you will, the divine order, has to be, push yourself beyond your boundaries, push yourself beyond your limitations, push yourself beyond your competency, That's what we're doing here. You think I'm capable of doing all this on my own? No. In my own life, I would prefer right now to be reading a book, even Tolstoy or one of those deep books. I would love to be doing that instead of doing this live talk show. Or I would love to be watching a movie because I love stories. I immerse myself in stories. You learn so much about humanity with stories. I would love to be doing those things or going for a long drive in the fall. Tonight is raining, so maybe not tonight, but in the nice fall sunshine, it's beautiful. I love those things. But to hang out with friends and have a deep conversation, right? Or with anybody who's close to me, right? But instead we do this because we have decided, I've decided, intentionally, when I woke up this morning, that today is going to be a day that I'm going to aim for the big life. The questions I asked myself, which I did that work years ago, back in 2007 after my son was born. I did all that work and they're all in notebooks. Like I wrote this thing out. In my life plan, they're all there. I have a life plan that I talked about before. I update every year on my birthday, July 24th. And I would encourage the kind of question that I asked myself, and it evolved, right? It grew into what we're doing today on the Qualified Life platform. You don't ask yourself questions playing small. Play big. Play huge because you're a human being. And being a human being is a big deal. You're alive, and especially if you're healthy and you have 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes that are seeing. I have friends who are blind and it's sad to see their life. A lot of them are independent and they're quite happy. I used to kind of feel sorry for them, but I don't anymore because they're independent people and they're doing well. Or people who are disabled in any way. But even for those who are disabled, somebody's on my social media who's a journalist and he's in a wheelchair, right? I can't remember the condition that he was born with, but he's in a wheelchair and he still functions as a human being. So we have no excuse, right? There's a video of a guy, I forget his name again, I think he's from Australia, with no arms and no legs, but he's a motivational speaker. I need to remember these guys' names and stuff. And he goes out and he speaks at large events, and he became a multimillionaire as a public speaker and writing a book and stuff. He has no arms and no legs. My point is, the questions that we ask, what are we setting out in the world to do? What are we setting out in the world to be? Who are we setting out to be? What questions are we asking ourselves? Are we just flowing with the tide? Are we following the crowd? Are we just going to say, give us the core curriculum, give us the textbook, and we're going to follow it and do exactly what everybody else has done in this program, whatever the program is, or in this school, or in this education system, without asking questions? Now, I'm not saying this is every single human being. I'm talking general, right? The people who set out to live the design life, the people who set out to alter their future, the people who set out to live their aspirations, and to go up that mountain to the summit of their lives to achieve their human potential. The question that we come up with must leave us excited, motivated and inspired to dream big and to really, really step out there, knowing that we are not even capable of it, but we're going to push ourselves to the limit, and we're going to trust that by some divine miracle we can fly. We can do bigger things. We can be like the Wright brothers who said mankind should be able to fly like the birds of the air. And they invented a machine to do it. They didn't say we're going to limit ourselves, which is the airplane. And so with every inventor, so with every creator, so with every originator. The people who wrote great stories that we still consume today and absorb and that teach us so much. The great philosophers of the ages like Confucius and Solomon and Socrates and Plato, if those people didn't write and convey their thinking or their teachings to their disciples and their students, where would we be today? And we have 7.9 billion people on the planet, and it's an extraordinarily sad thing that most of those 7.98 billion people would never ask themselves a question about life, about the universe, about the world. about themselves. They don't even question themselves. Why am I here? What purpose am I serving on the earth? Why was I born into this generation and this time? Face those questions. Even if you look yourself in the mirror, ask yourself those questions and don't play small. So the same thing I'm going to say today, as I said yesterday when you're building your core team, I'm going to say today about the questions we ask ourselves. Be very, very careful. The kind of life that you choose, the kind of question that you ask yourself and ask other people around you and ask the divine order, the universe, be very careful that what comes out of it is not a small life, but a life that steps up, a life that demands so much of yourself and so much of those around you. That's what we need to do. We need to, and I would use the word demand, we need to ask, but not politely, not just be wimps. Go out there and demand of the people around you that they live a big life. Demand of yourself that you achieve something great, like write and publish a book, to write some songs, write some poetry, paint something, or invent something, or go out in society and find a problem and say, enroll 2 or 3 people with you and say, come, let's go solve this problem. Now there are people doing this. Beautiful people are doing it. We have an organization in New York called the Elders. The Elders are people who take on the world and say, like, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals that they have for 2025 and then 2030. These elders, who are former heads of state, and Nelson Mandela already inspired them to, but the organization existed before Mandela, but Mandela really structured it. And they have people like Richard Branson as advisors and stuff. So the former Prime Minister of Sweden and Denmark and all those people, they, top people in the world with influence and power, they came together and formed an organization called the Elders. And they advise the UN, they advise governments and all, they pronounce on the future of the world. They're writing the future of humanity, these people. And the reason those people step up and live such a big life is because they ask the certain questions. For example, what goals should we aim for in humanity? Not now, but 5 years, 10 years from now. First, they had the Millennium Development Goals, which came out in around 2000, and the goal was by 2015, certain things would happen. One of it was that gross poverty would be eradicated on the earth. Well, reduced by half, but it has been eradicated, except in refugee camps in war-torn countries. Gross poverty that we knew back in the 90s and stuff, from Africa, India, Sudan, kids starving, their ribs showing through their skin. Those days are over, because the elders foresaw a humanity where there was not gross hunger and gross poverty, right? And now they have 19 goals that they're aiming for. One of it is guarantee basic income and all those things. Healthcare for everybody, education at secondary level for everybody. And they're implementing it. So there are people who are stepping out of their own limitations to make humanity a better place. Those people include the rich people of the world, Musk and Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and all that. I know there's conspiracy theory that these people are devils and antichrist and that they set out to make money. They don't set out to make money. They have enough money. The money that they have is not even because of the things they own. So if they have more money, what are they going to buy? They already own everything that they want. So it's not about money. It's about the ability to influence the future of mankind, of humanity. And you and I'm speaking to a particular person here. I'm not speaking to the general public, because the general public, they have a horde mentality, right? They have a mentality that says, don't give me responsibility. Leave me alone. Let me live in my comfort zone and don't have to even think. Leave me alone. Don't shut down society. Don't clean up the climate. I don't care about those things. How many people know about Glasgow 26? COP 26 in Glasgow? Very few people. Not even reading the news, right? Even if Greta Thunberg comes out and talks about climate, clean climate, only people in the environmental arena, the movement, would really listen to what she says, right? So the average human being, we're not talking to those people. We're talking to the people who are, you want to aspire to something higher. You want to live that life that is great, that leaves a legacy. If that burns in your heart, and you're choosing for that kind of life, and the words that we say resonate with you, stirs your passion, stirs your soul and your heart, awakens your spirit, then you are our people and we are your people. And those are the people I'm talking to. I'm saying, ask yourself some fundamental key questions. And if you want those questions, send me a message. I have, I think, 20 something questions. But we pick like 3 or 4. You don't want to go through a whole lot. Like 7 is like the top, or 12 even. But you go through some questions, and the outcome is not to come up with answers. The outcome, this is the outcome. The outcome, the result that you want from asking yourself and people around you and the universe questions, you want to decide what kind of life you want to live, right? And what we're saying is the same thing we say about your core team. Choose people who would push you to your limit. Choose people who would believe in you. Choose people who are gung-ho for opportunities and never see obstacle. When they see a problem, they say, there's no problem, here's your solution. Or let's brainstorm solutions together. Let's mind map and see what we could come up with. Those are your core group. And the same thing you want to do when you ask yourself questions. That you push yourself to the limit. That you say, I'm not going to stop here because everybody says that's where I'm capable of going. I'm going to step off the cliff, and by faith, and I'm not talking literally, of course, figuratively, I'm going to step out there, and I'm going to believe, I'm going to have that confidence that I can, if I think big enough, if I push myself enough, if I believe in my human capability, my potential, then I can contribute something to humanity that is great, that is big, that is a solution that will contribute to the life of people out there. And so we want to build that movement of these people who are not only about money, or only about self-development, or only about themselves, or only about local things that they could do, but who are thinking, we live in the knowledge age. We have the global platform of the internet. Let's picture, imagine how big a life we can live, and let's set out to do it. And I want to make something clear. As much as we're results oriented, we want to see a definite outcome to the work that we do and to the work that you do. The results are not important. The results are not important. What is important is the process that you call your life. Between birth and death, so you're born and you die, there's a line between the two, and that line between the two is called life, or the process of life. And what we're concerned is your lifestyle, the process of life. What lifestyle are you living day by day by day? Yes, you have a destination, you have a goal, you have results you want to achieve, you have an outcome that you're aiming for, and those are fine, and do everything in your power to make sure you achieve those outcomes. But that's not so important as the day-to-day walk. How are you being day-to-day? What is the process like? And if you ask yourself these questions and you set out to say, you know what, I'm not going to settle for something small. I'm not going to be a mediocre person. I'm not going to live a mundane life. I'm not going to just monotonously become a member of the rat race. I'm going to live a big life. I'm going to intentionally, you set out with a heart that is magnanimous and visionary and originator and a creator. Then the path that you walk, the process of life becomes so amazing. Your days become amazing. And we have precedent for this. The greats of the earth who came before us. Leonardo da Vinci, Mozart, and Beethoven, and all the great musicians and painters and writers, Tolstoy and James Joyce and all those guys. But also the inventors, the technology wizards, the great philosophers, the spiritualists in the Bible, the biblical men and women of the generations and the ages that went by. Human beings who achieved astonishing, miraculous, supernatural, and extraordinary lives. And so the question, I want to leave this with you today. Let's start asking yourself the questions that would leave you being in this place of walking through life, the process of life, living day to day, as somebody who is thinking and is living and is being and is doing a life that says, I'm not going to settle. I'm going to aim for more than I am capable of. I'm going to be more intelligent than I'm capable of being intelligent, because I'm going to read the books, I'm going to study. I'm going to do what it takes to rise and to live a noble, amazing life, right? And it starts, how do you do that? Not with coming up with answers. You do it by asking certain questions. And this idea that you ask, we're wrapping up, that this idea that you live life based on questions, which came out of Peter Drucker, is the fundamental thing of the qualified life. Life starts with a question. What is possible for me and you as a human being? And we go from there, and we build a qualified life and enjoy a lifestyle that is entrenched and embedded in history, that is a mark on the earth. Will leave your footprint, not in sand but in stone. Okay? I hope you stayed with me throughout the whole show and listened to my droning voice, and you had fun. So these shows, the qualified life, it's all about awakening a new consciousness. And when I say awakening a new consciousness, what I mean is, it's already, if it resonates with you and it stirs your passion and stirs your spirit, it means it's already in you. It's already there in you, and we just awaken it. And that's my goal, that for a certain core group of people, we could awaken in you this new consciousness of where we are as a human family on the earth today, with the internet and the digital world now opening, with really and truly a complete change of reality going on before our very eyes. A lot of people are panicking because there's a changing of the concept. There's a transformation, which is more than change. The word transform is deeper than change. There's a transformation of the concept of reality. And we're going through that. One day, maybe next month or sometime, we'll deal with that. What reality was and what it's going to be. And it is important that we live a life of questioning ourselves, questioning the people around us, right? What really are we about? Even as a family, siblings and parents and kids and grandparents, ask yourself, what are we about? What do we want our name to become? What do we want our bloodline to become? Like the Rockefellers and the Habsburgs and all the generations that came through in wealth and power and influence on the face of the earth. They've got together as a family. And nobody does this better than the Rockefeller and even the Habsburgs, and the royal families of Britain and all of Europe. They pass on from generation to generation to generation a deliberate strategy of making sure that the bloodline, the genetic bloodline, remains powerful. We ordinary people need to do this. We need to learn how to do this. How do we talk to the people in our bloodline, our genetic and DNA bloodline, and say to everybody, let's come together and see how we could make our name, our DNA, our bloodline great upon the earth. That's where we function. That's where qualified life is. That's the thought form that we go with. Okay? So have a good evening. I hope this is not like it's deep, yes, and it's substantial stuff, and it's in depth, and it's not for the lazy mind. But we can't run away from these things. We can't say we want light stuff, we want to laugh, we want to do comedy, people say that to me, right? Make your videos 5 minutes and just do light stuff. Well, enough of that is happening. And the world is in a better place because of it. You can cause people to laugh all they want. Tomorrow they gotta face reality when they wake up in the morning. And so there's a place for what we do. There's a need for it. The aspiration life. The life of the aspiring, the life of self-aspiration. Okay? I'm not making an excuse for us, but I recognize that a lot of people wouldn't take the time to watch us and try to listen and learn what we're all about. And I'm just saying that for you who watch us, who learn from us, who also would give us feedback, I'm sure, because we're causing your intelligence and your brain to work, right? So you would give us feedback that we don't even see, that we don't know, and educate us as well. It's a symbiotic relationship. For you who stay with us and as this thing grows in its audience and the amount of people who come alongside us, I really want to say we are a different crowd, we are a different breed. We're a different, soul, and we're carving out a different niche with awakening this consciousness of the fact that we don't want to live an ordinary life. We want to live a life that is extraordinary. We don't want to live a life that is just natural, but supernatural, that is miraculous. Okay? So I leave you with that thought. Have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right? Take